Welcome to the Noi Trading Company's YouTube channel. As always, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell. We are glad you have decided to join us, so that we can share this extra special video with you. This is the video where we take Noi out over the Grand Canyon. This is considered to be the most congested airspace in the United States. Hence there is a specific chart for this area. What an amazing life experience. We fueled up at the Grand Canyon Scenic Airlines. It is a good idea to start this trip with a full tank, as the canyon is bigger than you may think. We took off on runway 21, from the Grand Canyon National Park Airport, which is located near the south entrance to the Grand Canyon Park. Golf Charlie November. This airport is at an elevation of 6,600 feet. The runway 3 and 21 measure 9,000 feet long and 150 feet wide. Good condition asphalt surface. The week that we were there, the winds had been strong, with some gusts reaching up to 50 knots. You will often see Noi getting bumped around quite a bit. Fortunately, the winds calmed down enough to allow us to fly. The climb was tough. For general aviation aircraft, you have to be at 11,500 feet to fly north, 10,500 feet to fly south. We almost thought that Noi would not make it. At 9,000 feet, she stopped climbing. Fortunately, we caught an updraft that took us to 10,500. Eventually, we did make the necessary altitude to enter the airspace to travel north along the Zuni Point corridor. Not only was it windy, but it was cold. That is especially important in an open cockpit biplane. It was freezing. So now, if you have not already done it, hit that like, subscribe, and notification buttons. So how did Darren end up wanting to fly the Grand Canyon? It certainly was not on his personal wish list of things to do. Well, to explain a little better, we have to go back to when Darren was still a student pilot, and the biplane Noi had not yet come on the scene. That was way back in 2017. Darren had got his student pilot license on April 24th that year. So, Darren had a great friend, Kev the Bullet, who lived in England. They had known each other for years, and had shared some fun times and antics together. Kev had recently been fighting cancer, and that year had been a tough one. Both the cancer and the chemo beat him up. He was in and out of treatments and hospitals. However, his spirit was good. When Kev and Darren would talk, he would say how he wanted to get better, and come to the States to complete his bucket list. Some of the things on his list were: ride along Pacific Highway on an Indian motorcycle, hang out and eat at Carney's on Sunset Boulevard, drive down Route 66 in a Dodge Challenger Hellcat, and of course, you guessed it, fly down the Grand Canyon. Not so bad, except he wanted to do it in Darren's plane, with Darren as the pilot. Good choice, buddy. The most congested airspace in the United States. Perfect for a low-time pilot. But he was a good friend, who was holding on to his dreams. So of course Darren said they would. Darren continued learning how to fly. Kev continued with his treatment. Then suddenly Darren realized that his check ride was coming up soon. He had not even found his perfect plane. All Darren wanted was a plane that was fun. Fun in capital letters and an exclamation mark. You would be surprised at how many planes that excluded. Well, one day an email came through. Someone was considering selling their plane. Darren excitedly emailed Kev. "I might have found the plane." It was exactly what Darren was looking for. Darren hopped on a plane almost immediately to go see it. March 31st, he pulled up outside the hangar. There she was, a wonderfully maintained vintage Great Lakes biplane. After spending a couple of hours at the hangar, and a few more at the bar, a deal was made on a gentleman's handshake. Darren took some pictures, and headed back to the airport. Then he sent the pictures to Kev, and said, "I bought us a plane." Kev passed away the following day. His daughter said that he had seen the pictures of the plane. 3 weeks later, Darren passed his check ride. It was April 23rd, St. George's Day, the patron saint of England. 1 day short of year from when his student pilot license had been issued. A week after that, Mia Noi, the vintage Great Lakes biplane, was being flown to her new home in San Diego. "So Kev, this flight is to commemorate you and our friendship. Sorry it has taken so long, but this has been a strange year or so. The only thing worse than your jokes was when you passed gas. That was deadly. Darren knew you were there with him on this whole trip." A few months after his passing, a package arrived from England. Kev had been so confident in Darren's abilities that he had purchased him an aviator's watch to celebrate getting his pilot's license. Good friends like this are hard to come by. Kev, you are sorely missed, and that night at Mickey's bar will always remain in infamy. As you will see, we lost some of the cameras en route. The outside temperature dropped so low that they shut down. It is presumed that this was caused by the batteries failing. Only one camera survived the whole trip, and that one was on the belly of the plane. That means 4 other cameras failed. This proved to be a great learning experience. We are all probably familiar with electronics failing due to high temperatures. In this case, the batteries failed on the cameras due to low temperatures. Living in the ambient temperatures of San Diego, this was a first-time experience for this. If you have not already done so, please like, subscribe, and hit that notifications button. Help us keep this channel going. Please feel free to write comments and suggestions. The Grand Canyon is cold in the winter, hot in the summer. So the only times we can realistically fly would be spring and fall. Winds are supposed to be high in the spring. We can attest to that being true. So that leaves just the fall. Should we take this trip again? The Grand Canyon National Park is located in Arizona. Nearly 6 million people visit the Grand Canyon every year. Only a small percentage of those fly the Grand Canyon in tour planes and helicopters. Even fewer fly it in their own airplanes. Yet the Grand Canyon is the most congested airspace within the United States. It covers 277 miles of the Colorado River and adjacent uplands. The canyons can run as deep as a mile and up to 18 miles wide. The deep canyons reveal layers of red rock, which expose nearly 2 billion years of geological history. Several recent studies support the hypothesis that the Colorado River established its course through the area about 5 to 6 million years ago. Since then, the river has driven the down-cutting of the tributaries and retreat of the cliffs, simultaneously deepening and widening the canyon. The area has been inhabited by Native Americans for thousands of years. They built settlements within the canyon and its many caves. The Pueblo people consider the Grand Canyon a holy site and make pilgrimages to it. A number of distinct cultures have inhabited the Grand Canyon area. The Kohanina lived in the west of the Grand Canyon between 500 and 1200 AD. The Kohanina were ancestors of the human, Havasupai, and Hualapai peoples who inhabit the area today. The Sinagua were a cultural group occupying an area to the southeast of the Grand Canyon between 500 and 1425 AD. The Sinagua may have been ancestors of several Hopi clans. By the time the Europeans arrived in the 16th century, newer cultures had evolved. The Hualapai inhabit a 100-mile stretch along the pine-clad, southern side of the Grand Canyon. The Havasupai have been living in the area near Cataract Canyon since the beginning of the 13th century. They occupy an area the size of Delaware. The Southern Palutes live in what is now southern Utah and northern Arizona. The Navajo live in a wide area stretching from San Francisco Peaks eastwards towards the Four Corners. The first European known to have viewed the Grand Canyon was Captain Garcia López de Cardenas from Spain, who arrived in September 1540. Under orders from Conquistador Francisco Vázquez de Coronado. The captain was searching for the fabled 7 cities of Cibola. The captain, a small group of soldiers, and some Hopi guides traveled to the south rim of the Grand Canyon, between Desert View and Moran Point. Pablo de Melgrosa, Juan Galera, and a third soldier descended into the canyon. They were only able to get 1/3 of the way down, before they were forced to return due to lack of water. It is thought that the Hopi actually may have known routes into the canyon, but were reluctant to lead the Spanish to the canyon floor. It would be more than 200 years before any other Europeans would visit the canyon. Early on in the flight, I started having issues with the iPad that I use for traffic and navigation. The iPad is securely mounted in the cockpit, but as the cockpit is completely open, the inside temperature is pretty close to outside temperature. And it was cold, very, very cold. The battery on the iPad drained very quickly. Fortunately, I had a battery backup, which I was able to use. Noi was built way before any of these electronic devices were available. This is something that will be addressed very soon. As Captain Kirk said, "We need more power, Scotty." His reply was, "We have no more power, Captain." Even with the battery backup, I was losing power to the iPad at an alarming rate. I made it all the way up Zuni Point corridor and down the Dragon to the checking point. Then the iPad shut down completely. I radioed into the tower at the Grand Canyon Airport, and they cleared me to land. Advising them of the lack of traffic and navigation aids, I was back to the old school way of VFR. Yes, I had to use my eyes. The tower advised of a tall plane that was passing my left wing, 1,000 feet below. I had him in sight. The tower then radioed back. Just follow him in. Prior to landing, the iPad started working again. Lesson learned. Your iPad is susceptible to the cold as much as it is the heat. Ironically, the tour plane that I followed in was flown by Captain Scott, who had provided great insight at the FBO when we had chatted. He also gave heads up of wind shear at 50 feet off the runway. Yes, it was one of those trips. That subscribe and notifications button is calling your name. So as we land safely at the Grand Canyon Airport, please take this opportunity to like, subscribe, and hit that notifications button too. Also, please feel free to leave us a nice comment. Fly safe, my friends.